Hello, it's May Day, May the 24th, a glorious day, or so it seems. Welcome to episode 541 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 24th of May, 2025, and featuring Wish World, written by Russell T. Davies and starring Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor and Verada Sithu as Belinda Chandra. I am Bill Sylvia, the One in Black, and with me is Alex Fireheart.
Hello.
And we do expect Erin Romeo Moon Burke to be joining us, but she is not currently with us at the moment. She is running late due to outside commitments.
Mm.
How's your week going, Alex?
Uh, Not too bad. I mean, it was a bit annoying yesterday because I decided, they might have a similar situation at work where I could probably nab some extra hours on the front of my shift by showing up a bit early on the off chance that something happens. And then ended up being, nope, the one person they thought would not show up did, and they'd already finagled everything else by the time I got there. So it was like, oh, well, that was a waste. I could have
Ah,
just slept in. Because I only ended up working for my usual 4 hours. So it was like, well, yeah, really should have just stayed asleep, I guess.
gotcha. Yeah.
Uh, because it's funny in hindsight. I mean, I'll probably save it for the review section, even just vaguely, or at least post what you call it, post summary or something. But I'm realizing watching this episode last night might have influenced a dream I had. It wasn't Doctor Who related at all, but in hindsight, after I woke up, because it like the reason I remember it so vividly is just because it was like the last thing that happened before I woke up,
Ah,
and it was like, huh. That feels like it was probably inspired by something that happens in this.
I believe it. I'm mad now that you say that. I remember this much. I had a dream last night, and I woke up like, oh, that would be a great idea for a sci-fi movie. Uh, and I at the time I remembered the details very well,
Mm.
and now I do not remember them at all. Other than I remember that like the point of the movie would be less about the conclusion and more about like making people question things. So
Mm.
maybe actually was that a dream? I mean, because like that feels a lot like this episode. So
Mm.
was it just? And I have not slept since watching this episode. So now
Mm.
I'm doubting myself. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure I had a dream though. I mean, maybe the dream and the maybe I had two separate ideas. One was the dream and one
Mm.
was from this episode.
Possibly, yeah.
But obviously this episode was not an idea that I had, so I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about there. But obviously that means that I'm getting way off topic and confusing.
But yeah, aside from that, it's just been a gaming in that, getting through Andor, which I'll be talking about in Geek Talk, and pretty much it. Not much else, especially since my sleeping habits were like fairly wonky on my days off.
Yeah, I forget if I mentioned last week that due to like the weather preventing me from sleeping for a few days, I had for a while been on like a reversed sleep schedule. I've been fighting to get it back to something resembling normal. And so now it's not normal for me, but I've been waking up at 5 a.m. and going to sleep around like 9, 10 p.m.
Mm.
Uh, and So I've been sitting there like, oh, I wonder how streaming at 10 p.m. is going to be when I've been getting very sleepy and unable to do anything in the evening. But I did go to a social gathering today that always makes me a bit wired and unable to sleep anyway. So like I was sitting there like part of me really wanted to lie down for half an hour before the podcast,
Mm,
but I knew I would that would be a very bad idea if if I actually did it,
mm,
which that was a gathering for the end of the academic year. I still have, science stuff to do, but it is officially the end of the 24-25 academic year in at least University of Illinois.
mm.
So I'm kind of talking while also trying to. Oh, I just realized Erin finally put, or maybe she always had Romeo Moon as part of her Twitter thing, but it wasn't searchable that way before. Um. Oh yeah, and I guess it's also worth mentioning. I think I'm fine now, but about 10 minutes before our normal podcast, I mentioned this to you, Alex, before
Mm,
we started streaming. I suddenly got a stabbing pain in my head while standing up. Maybe I had been lying or sitting on the couch wrong and pinched a nerve because that's something that
mm.
happens in your 30s. So I took a headache pill, and it's been almost an hour since then. I'm at the moment feeling fine, so hopefully I'm still feeling fine as we go through the news.
Mm.
I'm just trying to finish up this tweet that we are live. I intentionally did not tweet early because I didn't know how much setup time we would need
Mm.
for reasons we'll talk about in a moment. Uh, okay. Tweeted, and I guess since we have silence, in today's review, I'll do a brief channel update. We've got some birthdays and news. Did the setup end up working for you to be able to read birthdays while streaming, or
Yeah.
would you do
I
you need me?
yeah.
Okay,
Effectively, I've got Canva open in one window and the outline and stuff in the other, so it doesn't
okay.
switch between if I'm switching tabs.
We have one item in Geek Talk. Then we have our episode summary. Uh, a second discussion of the Ronnie. We'll try to keep it shorter than last time.
Mm.
And then our episode review, final thoughts, and we will not be doing ratings because this is the first part of a two-parter.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we will be doing predictions. So moving on to the birthdays.
Okay, so there we go. So on the 19th of May, we have Michael Wisher, who played Davros in Genesis of the Daleks and was a Dalek voice in 3 Third Doctor stories and a variety of other roles. Would have been 90, but died in 1995 at the age of 60. On the 20th of May, we have John Lucarotti, who was a writer of 3 stories between 63 and 66, and who wrote the first draft of The Ark in Space. Would have been 99, but died in 1994 at the age of 68. On the 21st of May, we have Juliette Cohen, who played Chrissy Jackson, aka Maria's mother, in Sarah Jane Adventures from 07 to 08. turned 51. On the 23rd of May, we have Don Warrington, who played the president in The Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel, and Rassilon in Five Big Finish Stories, turned 74. On the 24th of May, we have Jim Broadbent, who played the 11th Doctor in Curse of Fatal Death, turned 76. And also on the 24th of May, we have Graham Williams, who was a producer from season 15 through 17. Would have been 80, but died in 1990 at the age of 45. So happy birthday to Michael, John, Juliet, Don, Jim, and Graham.
I just realized I said I would do a channel update, but since it was crossed off in the outline, I just completely skipped over it. So I'll go ahead and mention that. So for anybody who's watching on Twitch or YouTube and does not, throw this in minimize mode and put it in their pocket, you might notice our visuals are a little different. So we've been trying to standardize the visuals. I wasn't a huge fan of the fact that, on days that we have lots of energy, we have, plenty of visuals, and on days that we're in a rush, we have just the title card and often somewhere in between. So I've switched to basically borrowing from other podcasts such as Totally Not a Podcast. Borrowed the idea of using a whiteboard as something we could put our news and images on. So today is kind of a dry run of that, but hopefully this means that the visual side of the podcast will be a little bit more in sync and a little bit more entertaining compared to how it's been for the past while. So yeah, hopefully that works out well. Moving on from there to the news. So in episode news for the in the episode ratings, the Interstellar Song Contest had the highest overnight ratings of the season so far, with 2.57 million UK viewers. This can partially be attributed to airing directly after Eurovision, when many viewers were already watching BBC One. In the 7-day and 4-screen ratings, The Story and the Engine finished the week with 2.70 million UK viewers. This is the lowest 7-day figures for any episode this season, despite having the third lowest overnight. And I forgot to take the time to check the Barb and see where that lands on things for the week. But that's kind of disappointing, considering that, I saw that there was some reaction that was mixed of, people who just have, some people finding this to be a fluff episode. But considering the amount of culture in this episode, it's definitely a shame if people do not watch it. Where's our ratings? We rated it a perfect 5 across the board. So, I hope that it's just that it's because people are saving it to binge at the end of the season. But not an episode I would miss.
Yeah.
Moving on from the ratings to future episodes, we have our next time trailer. And I put a few images of that up on our whiteboard, just the ones that kind of stood out to me as most distinct and worth talking about. Obviously, there were a lot of visuals that looked a lot like what we've already seen. But a few things here. We have, more of the skeleton dinosaurs, and we even had one. There was even one scene of what looked like a unit shooting the sister ray from Final Fantasy VII at one of the skeleton dinosaurs. We have Belinda still seeming to be in wish world mentality, referring to
Mm.
Poppy as her daughter. And then we have this image of what at least the trailer I think wants us to believe is Omega emerging into our reality. I don't know if that's what it actually is.
Mm.
Any thoughts or particular reactions to the trailer?
Um, I mean, I think it's weird that the Rani's ultimate goal, at least from what she's saying at the moment, is to rebuild Gallifrey using his like. And the thing is, she specifically says with his body, which is like, okay, so is he alive or is he somehow alive again or is he not? And she's just trying to get his remains or something to be able to like mess with them because
I missed that. Let me
yeah,
replay the line.
mm,
With his body, I can construct a new Gallifrey.
yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting.
weird that she'd
And it's
care.
I can definitely see why that would be her motive. Like her thing was always like it was less wanton destruction and more
mm,
like, oh, we're time lords, we're actually people, but these
mm,
other like mortals are, sub Gallifreyan,
mm,
not real people. So I can see why that would be a goal. I
mm.
I don't like I there were definitely was not time today to rewatch Arc of Infinity to remember how Omega like was finally, died.
He just kind of
Maybe
it was that
maybe
he
I'll do that this week, but go ahead.
like yeah, from what I remember, and I haven't watched it in years, but from what I remember, no one really like kills him. His body just refuses to uh by virtue of being in the
Being made of
antimatter,
antimatter.
yeah, being made of antimatter and being in that universe for so long, even trying to use the doctor's form or whatever and possibly part of the doctor's like DNA or something to try and make it like, now I have matter in me so I can
hmm
like manage it. It's it's basically like, yeah, this was never gonna work.
So
Like,
I guess the way they're probably going to explain that is kind of like he was squirted out of our reality, like being squeezed out of a tube of toothpaste, and he ended up back in the antimatter universe. Like
mm,
that's just kind of how I guess they would describe it.
yeah, I mean,
But then again, she's
given
saying with his
even
body, so what the
yeah,
fuck does
like
that mean?
yeah, like given Big Finish have used Omega, I'm assuming they came up with some explanation. Apparently, some audio in this episode was flatly Big Finish audio rather than uh
Interesting. Was it
audio.
the Omega voice
Yeah,
or?
yeah. It was oh, I've already forgotten what the story was, but something I read listed the specific story it was pulled from, but it was from a Big Finish audio. Which I guess makes sense because I don't think they used the original guy for Arkham Infinity. I could be wrong.
Uh, According
Maybe they
to
did.
the fandom wiki, the audio clips of Omega are reused from Big Finish audio drama Intervention Earth,
That's it.
which that may be a sign that they didn't film new stuff with Omega, which may
Hmm.
mean that this entire plan fails.
Possibly. I mean, it might also just been that they maybe wanted to acknowledge the original actor because he's no longer with us. I forget how long ago he died, but when I did check like a thing for him, he is definitely dead. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, I guess that was their way of doing that. Whereas like with Sutek, they could bring the guy back.
Right.
Um, but I guess the idea is that was a nod to him, and if Omega does physically show up, then it'll be like and has a voice. It'll either be stock audio or a new actor.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess is Time Lord. They could somehow have the Rani like revive him in a way that makes him regenerate.
Right. They kind of, I mean, one way or another, right? His original antimatter
Hmm.
presence can't really exist on Earth. So yeah, I
Right.
guess they'll say like she wished him a new body, but if
Yeah.
it, I mean, that kind of brings me to the beginning, and that's or the other points, and that's it. Really seems like we had the whole thing of the new reality is falling apart. Like that's how we're summoning Omega and whatever. But
Hmm.
most of this trailer, and maybe it means that most of this trailer is like the first 15 minutes,
Hmm.
is stuff from the Wish world. We have the
Yeah.
dinosaur skeletons.
Hmm.
We have Belinda not like thinking of herself as Belinda, right? Thinking of herself
Hmm.
as Mrs. Smith.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, maybe it's like the first 10 minutes of the episode, but well, I say it's from the Wish world, but we also have Unit Tower back. So instead of like the reality falling apart, it seems like the merging of the two different realities. What is this? Final
Possibly.
Fantasy V?
uh,
There's a deep cut because most people in the US have not played Final Fantasy V. I mean, well, but that was my main reaction was to say that.
hmm.
Okay. Moving on from there, we have a an interview with RTD about the Ronnie. Let's see. So I guess I'll just kind of go through this. I didn't have time to go through and like pick specific things to talk about. So RTD and I'm not even sure who he said this to. Like Cultbox is just quoting RTD. Normally it says where the quotes come from, like if it was from an
Hmm.
interview with somebody. Unless it was from Doctor Who Unleashed, because I haven't had
Maybe.
time to watch that today. She's one of the Doctor's enemies. She's a bit more interesting than simply being all evil because she was a scientist that was always amoral than immoral. Uh, yes, except they keep writing her as basically the master.
Yeah.
Um, she'd do anything for science. In
Hmm.
this story, we discover she's on her greatest experiment yet on a vast scale. Plus, she's coming back into a universe that's completely changed. There are no Time Lords. The Doctor thinks he's the last. That gives her a much bigger arena to play in. She's rarely operated on such a cosmic scale before, and this gives us a chance to scale her up. And again, she's not acting like it's, I mean, you can interpret what she's doing as an experiment, but
Hmm.
it's all post hoc. It's not
Yeah.
text. It's
Yeah.
she's behaving like if you swapped her out with Anthony Ainley, I don't think any of her behavior would change.
Hmm. Like,
Well, actually,
really?
Anthony Ainley never came out and said that he was lovers with the Master. That didn't happen until
Right.
RTD and Moffat. But other than that,
Yeah. This. I guess you could argue, like, I guess you could argue that it's a matter of if this was a master plot, then her end goal would be, oh, sweet, I've won, I've taken over the world. Whereas this is like, no, 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 no. I just needed this to happen so that this could destroy reality so I could get to my real goal. Like, this is like phase one of like a plan where it's like, wow, okay. Not often that destroying Earth is phase one.
right. Continuing, the Rani is famously a scientist, and now she's a scientist walking into a world where a pantheon of gods has been awoken, which is magic in the air. She simply finds it fascinating. To her, it's a different form of science. She is not there to reject it. She's a true scientist with a very open mind. True scientists have open imaginations, saying, yes, we can go to the moon. Yes, we can travel in time. Yes, there's anti gravity. And again, sure, but none of that shows up in the script.
Yeah.
The problem with her experiments and her ideas is that she doesn't care how many lives she loses along the way. We'll see her running experiments on a massive scale. The very first scene of the two-part finale will really take people by surprise as to what she's up to. And from then on, it never stops. It's a huge extravaganza. That scene, actually, which we haven't really talked about yet, is when I rewatched it, I was sitting there, I was like, oh yeah, I could see she's kind of experimenting with these powers. But again, that kind of requires an intentional reading.
Yeah.
Because it's really no different than if we saw like Sasha Dewan carrying out the same scene.
Yeah.
And then we have Mrs. Flood. Let's see. It's a fantastically servile relationship where she sort of becomes the Igor to the Ronnie's Frankenstein. For me, and this is just my take on it, oh no, this is Anita Dobson. She's an enabler. She likes to know where the power is, and she'll help and enable them, but she won't get in the line of fire. Okay. All right, moving on from there, we have some merchandise news. Doctor Who the Flamethrower. No. Mattel, the maker of Barbie dolls, is now offering 15th Doctor and Ruby Sunday dolls. So I've seen some people refer to this as the 15th Doctor getting a Barbie. I think it is Barbie size. Ruby's is not, because Ruby is, as she mentions in this episode, not the tallest. I think she's about Clara size. But we have the 15th Doctor in the striped shirt and brown jacket that has kind of become his kind of default merchandising costume, although I'm not sure if he's worn it in more than one episode. And we have Ruby in her winter coat and skirt, which as somebody who spent years working a job where I had to wear long pants and short sleeve shirt, and spent years before that in high school in an Air Force uniform where we wore long pants no matter what time of the year with a short sleeve shirt. I'm still never quite come to understanding the shorts or short skirt and coat combination. I don't have anything really other to say about these. Like they don't like look super realistic, but they look as realistic as you would expect if they're being made from like the Barbie factory.
Yeah. I mean, it seems a bit weird anyway to make a joke specifically saying, "Oh, the Doctor got a Barbie." No. Remember what Shudigata was in and what role he played? He's a Ken doll.
Fair point.
Like, he was literally
Which
in
you
that
think he'd
movie
already
as
have
a Ken. Yeah.
Did they ever merchandise? Like, did they ever? You would think they would have released a line of Kens based on that movie, but I don't think they did.
If they didn't, I feel like the only reason they wouldn't is Mattel didn't want to have to license all of these actors as likenesses.
That's fair.
Potentially.
Because, yeah, you have a few big names, right? You have Simu Liu. You have the main Ken.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling.
Yep. All right, moving from there. In video and streaming news, the new. Oh, sorry. I thought this was thought it was video, but it's actually Demon Records. So the name threw me off, and I did not do my proper diligence. So this is actually a Demon Records release, celebrating the John Pertwee era on what in the is 4X Blue a type of vinyl? Yeah, I don't know what.
Yeah, I don't know
Okay, I'll just
either.
read what they say. Available on blue and 4x blue and green vinyl. With a beautifully illustrated cover, this set presents John Pertwee narrating 2 Doctor Who Target books, an array of bonus John Pertwee audio appearances, and his own 1972 pop single, Who is the Doctor? I think that might be the one where he sings along to the Doctor Who theme. I could be wrong.
Possibly.
Um, so it is okay. So it's the novelization of Curse of Peladon, or an abridged version of that. So basically, an audio drama version of, or at least audio book version of Curse of Peladon.
Mm.
And then Planet of the Daleks, which again, that was another actual TV story. Um, and then bonus features. Let's see, BBC radio interviews, a sketch with Elizabeth Sladen, comedy featuring Mel. I don't know how to say this name. Giedroyc. Uh, and tributes paid by family members and Doctor Who producers. Okay, so this is
Mm.
basically, yeah, so it's basically a big Third Doctor collector's set,
Mm.
with 4 discs.
Yeah, best I can tell by the way, I think them describing the color of the vinyl is just literal. Like the vinyls will actually have color on them instead of just being a flat
Mhm.
like black circle
But
kind
yeah,
of a
the
thing.
blue. So I'm thinking blue and 4x blue and green was a typo.
Yeah.
Because what I'm
Either
seeing
that or
here is there
like
are four
yeah.
four discs. 2 are blue, 2 are green.
Yeah.
Um,
Unless the idea is you'll either get four vinyls that are blue, 4 that are green, or a mix of both. And maybe it's just random. I don't know. Or there's like a vinyl per episode or something instead of a vinyl per
oh,
serial.
actually, and I sorry. The visuals that we see are the CD version. So there's a vinyl
Ah.
version and a CD version.
Hmm.
So we actually do not have visuals of the vinyl version. So
Ah.
that may look slightly different.
Hmm.
Uh,
All I would assume then is that the vinyl version is like maybe like a little bit of white in the middle, and then they're either the main part of the vinyl record instead of being black is like either blue or green.
maybe. If anyone is listening and knows what 4x blue actually means, please comment.
Yeah, that to me that just says it'd be like 4 blue records,
Yeah, in which
just
case
written in a
in
weird
which
way.
case there's just a typo that happened in editing that sentence.
Hmm. Well, like I feel like there are some listings for stuff where it'll say like 4 times this,
Mhm.
and basically
Yeah,
what
but
they
it would
mean
like
is 4 of this thing.
true, but it wouldn't say blue and 4x blue. It would just say 4x blue.
Right.
So that's where I think the typo would be if that's the case.
Yeah. Maybe it meant to
Uh,
say like green in that spot.
right. And in our final news, we have Big Finish news. So on May 20th, they released Dark Gallifrey, Missy Part 2, written by Roshana Patel, starring Michelle Gomez as Missy and Sylvester McCoy as the Seventh Doctor. Interesting that this range that's supposed to be featuring Renegade Time Lord adventures is already dipping into the Doctor, and a Doctor that never met Missy on screen.
Yeah.
Uh, on May 22, they released Eighth Doctor and Lucy Miller Series 4. I'm not entirely sure if they've had if they've had 4 entire reprisal series with the Eighth Doctor and Lucy, or if this is including the original Eighth Doctor and Lucy Miller series from when she first debuted. I
Mm.
would have to look into the news posts about that or the release history. But this is a collection of stories written by Alan Barnes, Eddie Robson, Barnaby Edwards, Jonathan Morris, Mark Platt, and Nicholas Briggs, starring Paul McGann as the Doctor and Sheridan Smith as Lucy Miller. And that is the end of our news.
Okay, yeah, apparently there has been uh, a series of this Eighth Doctor and Lucy Miller things that originally started like 2 years ago.
Okay, so they've done 4 series within the 2 years?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now we're on to Geek Talk.
Yep. Uh,
Andor Season 2.
yep. So it took me a little longer than intended by virtue of waking up a bit late, and I basically, because of how this season works of like I guess what, 4 3-episode arcs by virtue of there still being 12 episodes. Um it's kind of interesting cuz like this season left me wanting more, but there won't be any more. Is what's so annoying. Like I've said it
Should
to
we watch Rogue One?
well, that's the problem. This is far better than Rogue One. This absolutely shits all over Rogue One in terms of quality. Like, this is, my god, Rogue One is so bad. Like, comparing it to this, which is effectively a prequel to Rogue One, which itself in itself is a prequel. This blows Rogue One so far out of the water that it's not even funny. Like, my god. And, like, I've said this to people before, but even just watching season 1 back when that came out, and or like to me, Rogue One, and this kind of proves it really. Rogue One should have been season 3 of this show. Now, to be fair, we wouldn't have this show without Rogue One. So it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of an like, it's kind of a, you know, we wouldn't have got this without that. So there would never have been Andor. But this show just makes me realize even more, like, feel even more confidently that Rogue One does not work as a one off film because it tries to cram way too much into way too little time. But you're obviously not going to make that movie 3 hours or even like 3 hours long at best, 4 hours long at most, because who the hell would watch that? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I probably would, but they'd have to actually keep me interested. Like, it almost feels like either Rogue One should have been a show, which would have made so much more sense. Because, like, in my mind, you would not have had to have done Rogue One as, like, a multi-season thing. If you'd just given it a 12, like, yeah, like this 12 episodes, almost an hour for most of them, like anywhere between like 40 something to 50 something minutes, like depending on what the episode needs. That would have worked for Rogue One, and it would have made it work because you could have fleshed these characters out. Now, when I rewatch Rogue One, I'll give a shit about Andor, but basically no one else except for like the few characters in that I just kind of liked as is. But like a lot of these characters, they're just nothing because the plot needs to move really quickly. um, but yeah, I will say there's stuff in this that works as a much better allegory for real world events that have been happening the past couple of years than Doctor Who recently attempted to do. Um, because it was brought up that the Palestine Israel stuff had already started up by the time what we covered last week had happened, so that would have been able to influence it, and that an Israeli company does actually sponsor Eurovision, so there is some thing that you can read into that with that story. And this basically does it way better because it has time to develop it. Mind you, this is 3 episode arcs, though it almost kind of feels like there is one ongoing story for the bulk of it, but this is like, yeah, it's like each set of 3 episodes are a year's worth of time. So we start in like 4 BBY and then end in like 1 BBY, I think. Given that, Battle of Yavin happens in the first movie. But yeah, it's definitely worth watching, and like I feel like to a degree I still prefer season 1, but I think that's just because season 1 had one continuous story rather than all these time skips. But it's still a good like, it's not like, if it's the lesser of two, that's still like one of my favorite, if not my favorite Star Wars thing ever, and it's season 2 that is still really good. So it's like the bar is still very high, and it's still like, it's not like it's not like they completely shit the bed or anything. But yeah, like, it's absolutely worth watching. If you haven't watched any of it, watch it. Like, it's absolutely worth it. It is, for the longest time, The Last Jedi was my favorite thing Star Wars had ever done that I've seen, in terms of from when it came out to now. Honestly, I think Andor might have leapt over it. So Andor is probably now sitting at my favorite Star Wars thing ever. It's definitely out of this era of like Disney ownership. Um, but yeah, I could go on all day, so I'll probably call it there.
Hmm. Okay. So that then brings us to the summary, which I still had marked for Erin
Mm,
because she wasn't here to do it last week and was expected to be here.
mm,
Our last update from her was 40 minutes ago, and that was that she still had not wrapped up where she was before this.
mm.
Uh, any interest in doing the
The funny thing was, is I thought I was going to have to at first, so I started
Okay.
writing one and then I stopped. So I was like, oh.
Okay.
um, I can try doing one. Because in hindsight, I'm realizing I'm probably gonna have to. Let's see. Oh, actually, yes, I can do that. Well, while that's not on screen, I'll quickly switch over to a stopwatch because I've still got the Andor thing on this stream, I just realized. So now when I swap to that, there we go. Now it's got a stopwatch up.
Oh yeah. Stopwatch.
Um, so I'm usually terrible at doing these by memories. This is probably going to be intentionally very short. So
Okay. All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
okay, we begin with the Rani in the 1800s, I forget the exact year, barging into a house, pretending to be a midwife, taking a baby from a family, turning them all into either flowers or birds, and then leaving. And then we cut back to 2025, where turns out Conrad has been able to wish the world into what he wishes it was like, which is basically the 1950s, possibly earlier. With the Doctor and Belinda living as a couple, with Poppy from Space Babies as their daughter. Ruby randomly running around, possibly homeless. It's never really stated. Well, she's on the run. Turns out she's on the run because she's doubting stuff.
Yep.
Unit is the Unified National Insurance Team. And to make a long story short, because a lot of it is just that people are gradually doubting. Oh, and oh my god, what the hell is her name? I am blanking. Is it Shirley? Unit.
Yes.
Yeah, Unit Scientific Advisor. I wanted to thinking of like, what can I say without just saying the woman in a wheelchair, because that's very reductive. Even though that's what the show basically makes her. Yeah, like Shirley is living on the streets as well as are seemingly pretty much all disabled people, because, well, this is Conrad's world. And they are all doubting it. And it basically turns out that this is the entire point, is the Rani knew that this would not work, but that is the entire point, is that the doubt created would tear the world apart. But with the Doctor within this as well, having found this god of wishes and letting Conrad wish the world to be like this, that it would never be stable, and that it needed the Doctor to be contained within the wish, so that when he eventually broke free of it, it would tear reality apart, as opposed to just Earth. And ultimately, after the Doctor comes to and realizes what's going on, is because the Rani reveals that she is actually trying to find Omega, and locks the Doctor out of her base, the sort of bone palace, and blows off the balcony that he was left on so he can't interfere. And we end with him and Belinda having seemingly vanished into thin air. Oh, pardon me. Shirley and Ruby friggin' almost getting ready to meet their fate, and the Doctor plummeting into the nothing. And that's it.
Right. I have 4 minutes, 16 seconds.
Like, this is why I normally write them out, because I probably would have been able to shave 2 minutes off that if I hadn't had to get in that mode. But anyway, we'll go back to that.
I like how literally every stream now lately we've been banning a free subscriber bot.
Mm. Yeah, they've been
I
really
guess that
ramping
means
up lately.
someone is watching our stream. Maybe nobody organic, but all right. Okay. So I left on elements of Doctor Who the Ronnie because last time we got 30 seconds of the Ronnie. This time we got a full episode of the Ronnie.
Mm.
Um, what are your thoughts of this incarnation of the Ronnie as we've seen her?
I am very worried so far that this is going to be a similar thing that it feels that Kate O'Mara had, where she's doing great, but the episode built around her is like not either doesn't fit the Rani or just it is not like I don't know. I guess it's more that it just doesn't feel like a Rani story. Is what bugs me. Like the scale is too large. Like yes, she's a mad scientist, but like come on. Like where like I guess I'll give the Rani this much credit. Unlike Davros, she was actually able to warp reality. He wanted to blow up all of reality, and she's just managed to tear the fabric of reality apart in one episode. So good on her, I guess. Yeah, like I was absolutely enjoying her performance. So this really is just a matter of, and like in a way that it's like in times where she's being like all giddy and stuff, it doesn't come off as like, oh god, we're doing the John Sim Master thing. Thank God it didn't come off like that. Because like it's more like she's excited because she knows what's coming, and it's like, okay, cool, you're actually moving this along. Thank God.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no clue why she would want to be bringing back Omega to try and reform Gallifrey, going by what we know from the next time trailer. But, you know, otherwise, solid performance from Archie Punjabi. And I do like that this time, because, like, the little we got of her in. The little we got of their dynamic um, with Mrs. Flood being, like, just immediately subservient. I like that there's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit in this of uh uh Mrs. Flood, which I'll just call her that for the sake of not having to
Mm-hmm.
say the other Ronnie. um that it's very clear that like she's still the Ronnie, so she's not really keen on being subservient to anyone including herself. So it's very like coming across like she almost wants to stab her while she's making the sandwich for
Right.
Conrad.
Uh, there's definitely a theory that Mrs. Flood is going to betray the Ronnie, which,
Mm.
well, speaking of master
Yeah.
parallels, but also it does seem a bit odd in terms of her plan.
mm. I mean, like she's down for the plan, so it seemed weird. I feel like the only way that it would work is if the idea is that they're mostly just going to bicker long enough for the Doctor to undo whatever's happening.
Mm, I
Um,
could see that.
catch them in a logic loop or something, where it's like, okay, but who's actually going to be in charge? Is it you or is it you? Or, this, that, the other. Like, what are you actually going to do? What's going to happen to you, Mrs. Flood, or whatever? And it's like, oh, she's just going to, because of course she's probably going to want to keep going, but you would think the other Rani is going to be like, no. Like, I'm the main one now, so you have to bugger off.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, otherwise, generally, good performances from both. Just hope that they don't completely screw it up in the, in the next episode.
Mhm.
Which, again, it's, as is the case with a lot of Doctor Who stuff, there's usually not a problem with the acting, it's always the writing. So,
Mhm. Right. Um. Yeah. So, and on that note, I've part of me wants to be like, oh well, clearly she was directed to act like Missy instead of like a scientist. But then I have to take a step back and think, wait, looking at Mark of the Rani, Time of the Rani, like her attitude was never like overt like caricature scientist. She was always like haughty, superior, like
mm,
it's I mean, acting like a female master in some ways is not super unlike her original characterization. So I can't be
yeah.
like, oh, she's acting poorly.
Mm,
I think if anything, it just kind of falls on the writing to make it, to distinguish this from a master
yeah.
episode. And as I've kind of dropped hints about, in leading up to this, I don't think they've done a very good job because, yes, I can see the argument for the Ronnie doing everything she does in this episode. The problem is, it's not written in such a way that it would be any different than if you just took out the Ronnie and replaced her with the Master,
Yeah.
which makes it feel like a lazy bit of fan service instead of intentional. Even if it was intentional and planned out,
Mm,
the way this is written is not making that obvious.
yeah. It does
Um,
also make it weird that, like, okay, so why hasn't she started trying to do this Vindicator stuff since season one? Because Mrs. Flood has been around since Church on Ruby Road,
so,
I think.
and that, yes, so that I think, if anything, might be a problem with the cold open scene
Mm,
because you kind of like we've been going around all this time with Mrs. Flood and the Vindicator.
yeah.
And then when the Vindicator stuff is all done, she bi-generates.
Mm,
But if you were to buy this episode the way that it starts, you would think it was all new Ronnie's plan. She's the one who goes and gets the baby that was the cause of the Vindicator in the first place. I
mm,
think I think it I think that whole thing makes more sense if Mrs. Flood is the one in the flashback picking up the baby.
yeah.
And then you could say, oh, she's had the baby since season one, uh,
Mm,
this whole time because she's been carrying out this plan.
mm. I
Because
mean,
clearly this whole season she's been carrying out the plan, and she mentions like
mm,
the plan needed the Vindicator, and
mm,
therefore she did this, that, and the other thing.
yeah.
But so we don't know any of what happened before that, so we just need it to be believable that Mrs. Flood was the one doing it.
Mm,
And that that it does fall a little short on that.
yeah. I mean, I guess the wish stuff does. You know what? No, I don't. I don't think it still explains the fourth wall breaking at all. That just feels like meta for the sake of meta,
True.
rather than there being an in-universe explanation. Because, like, I don't get why the wishing stuff would somehow make her able to break the fourth wall, and she doesn't in her last appearance. So it's like, why was she winking to camera then. Like,
Mhm.
now it just seems like that was entirely superfluous for the sake of having her talk to camera.
Right.
Like, no wonder why no one saw it
It.
coming, because it made no sense
I mean,
as a twist.
well, I would say a lot of people saw it coming, but I guess it was also leaked. So I don't know how many people
Right.
saw it coming because they saw the
Mm.
leaks.
Well, I think it's just a matter of
And we
like,
have an Aaron.
I think it's a matter of like, anytime there's a mysterious woman in the past 10 years or so, everyone's like, oh, it's the Rani. So,
True. Aaron, so we have gotten past the summary, and we were just giving our thoughts on this interpretation.
incarnations, plural, I guess.
That's yeah, it's neither the depiction. That's the word I was looking for. This
Mm-hmm.
depiction of the Rani. So, what are your thoughts? If unless you need time to gather yourself.
I'm excited to see her come back. I don't like the association of magic with her because for me, Durrani has always been like a mad scientist type. I mean, we did have what she was turning people into trees, I guess, but during Colin Baker, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, her first
There was
appearance.
that. I also don't like how she seems to be kind of a romantic interest for the Doctor. I don't remember her being anything like that to any of the previous ones.
To be fair, she does say like, do you remember if that's true or not? So it
Mm-hmm.
could just be it's like trying to provoke him to be like, oh well, that's bullshit. I never did that. Like
Mm-hmm.
Which I mean,
I never danced with you in the ruins of a civilization that was burning.
and my problem
Mm-hmm.
with that is that also like brings me back to the scene of Missy and Clara, where she is like, oh, where she does like the two truths and a lie. She was like, oh, me and the Doctor did this, that, and the other thing. Which one of those do you think is not true?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, we're once again drawing more parallels with Missy
Mhm.
for this character that's supposed to be,
Yeah.
a tonally different character.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah, like,
Like, I just don't like how we have yet another female, like, antagonist, protagonist who needs to be attached to a main male character like that, like romantically.
mm,
It'd be nice if she was just flat out an antagonist. Like, I don't
yeah.
like you, you know.
Yeah, especially because it doesn't fit the Rani's usual portrayal, where
Mm-hmm.
she wouldn't even really be jokingly interested in that. She's very like all business.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I get you can say like, well, the Doctor usually changes at least slightly from regeneration to regeneration, but it's like, the core of who the Doctor is usually still there. It's just like little quirks here and
Mm-hmm.
there change.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
going from
yeah.
like being very witty and just shitting all over the master, and like no wonder why. Like I was watching, like they did like a 4 minute thing of clips of the Rani that they uploaded to the official Doctor YouTube channel, and there's just
Mm-hmm.
like a bit where it's like, oh god, you're useless. No wonder the Doctor always outwits you, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, wow, where's that Rani? Like
Mm-hmm.
again, like as I said before, like Aaron jumped in, like the actress is doing really well, but
Mm-hmm.
the problem is the writing there.
Yeah. Like, I like both actresses. I like I can't remember
Mm.
their names, but I like both of them.
Anita Dobson and Archie Punjabi.
Mhm. But like, and this will get into some of my other things that I disliked about the serial as well. Have we gone through our likes and dislikes, or we just got through the
Not
summary?
yet. We're
Okay.
still on elements of Doctor Who, and then the reviews next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it just kind of diminishes her to be obsessed with the Doctor like this. And honestly, to be kind of obsessed with any dude like this, it feels like she just wants to play. Like in the previous incarnation, it felt like she just wanted to play God, basically. She
So-
had a God complex. I'm a time lady. You're a peasant. I'm going to experiment on you, and you should be grateful to be honored in such a way to contribute to my science.
I think her obsession with the Doctor is literally just I don't know if it's the Doctor is needed to break the reality. Like that's something. It was something like I think it was more he was the one surviving Time Lord rather than it being about the Doctor per se.
I think it was also just a matter of like, you've interfered with my problems before, so I've decided to pick Earth to do this to piss you off. Like, I've done this. I've picked this planet specifically to be petty. Like, because I hate you. Because she could have gone with any planet, and the Doctor probably wouldn't have caught on necessarily. But it's the end of the previous episode seemed to imply they were specifically targeting the Doctor because, you know, screw you. Like, you've meddled with our plans before, so we're gonna fuck over Earth just to spite you, basically. Like, even if that's not like the full thing, it just feels like, you know, yeah, this could have been anywhere. Even involving the Doctor, this could have been anywhere. But it's Earth because the Doctor has a connection to that planet.
All right, let's move on to what we liked about this story. And on my on our order, we have Alex first. What did you like about this episode?
Let's see. I feel like I had something. That's it. I guess I was trying to remember the specific wording I was going to go with, but I guess I feel like this
You didn't seem to know yet when I asked you before the podcast. I know that.
Yeah, like, I would say I feel like this episode is a much better, at least in my mind, deconstruction of Conrad's worldview than Lucky Day was. Because the whole twist of this episode is, yeah, of course this doesn't fucking work. Like, this world cannot sustain itself because it makes no sense. And like, and all this, and like, this is so uneven and so this and that, that like this rigid 1950s way of living, like, of course it wasn't gonna perpetuate forever. So like, and yeah, again, that's the entire point. That's why the Rani picked him, and I like that. Of like, well, of course he would. I mean, it's kind of funny because to that end, you would otherwise think that the Doctor being black and Belinda, being a woman of color, they would also be like completely fucked over, but they're needed for the plot to keep going, so they have to be in a decent 1950s household, despite the fact that they're not white. Whereas otherwise, you can guarantee Conrad would have rather have them living on the streets or something.
Although interesting, Ibrahim and Kate seem to still be allowed to be, if not a full couple, something attempting to be a couple. So,
well, the thing with that is also just the like, as even the doctors, like, as John Smith is saying, like, oh, if you two become a couple, then she doesn't have to work anymore. That's a good thing. So, And also, he's white passing. So I think that's why Conrad wouldn't care enough to look into like his actual ethnicity or that. It's like, you look white enough.
It could also be. Well, I don't think Ibrahim is the. That's not a Jewish name, is it? Wait, no, is it?
It's Lebanese. Oh,
Lebanese.
the
Okay.
name itself. I don't know if the name is what the name is most connected to, but
My thing was going to be if he was coded as Jewish or anything like that, then that might be a conservative thing too. Like, because the whole conservative support for Israel and everything. So, or it tends to be conservatives that support Israel more. So maybe that's it. I'm not sure.
which is interesting because at the same time they do so well criticizing Islam while conflating Islam with all Arabic culture for being too conservative. There we go. I finally found the set of images I was looking for of the breaking apart of Conrad's worldview. There it is. Okay, Aaron, what did you like about this episode?
I like the design actually. I love the giant skeletons walking around. They don't completely make sense. I'm thinking that maybe that ties into like the Ronnie's obsession with like biology and stuff because she was kind of messing around with biology in the previous appearances, wasn't she? And that obviously
like
turning people into
so
trees.
Her first plot was like the people that she worked for were having a harder time like sleeping or whatever, so she was stealing brain chemicals from other people to give to her workers so they could continue functioning.
So that's kind of a biological thing too.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, in fiction, just has the idea that you just do science or you don't do science, and all sciences are the same, and you just get a PhD in science, and once you have your PhD in science, you know everything about chemistry, biology, psychology, astrophysics, and so forth and so forth.
I like how, at least in this serial, it seems like they lean into like modern storytelling. I think would point out like the fact that she's more biology focused when it comes to like science and stuff. So
what I will say as a positive, like I've been criticizing this for like you could just swap her out with the master and it would be the same story. But you notice she uses the clone life forms that are specifically bred for finding things. The master probably would have used a machine.
Yeah.
So that is kind of leaning into her as a bioengineer.
You've got kind of like the castle or her lookout is all designed around bones. You've got the bone creatures walking around, the living bones walking around and stuff. At least that's what they appear to be.
Which I guess they're supposed to be invisible.
Yeah.
Which makes it even more confusing why they're there, unless they're there to prevent like the doctor from swooping in with a spaceship and stopping her. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, because like people look up and then they like step on them, but then they're like, as soon as they touch the ground, they're immaterial, so they don't just squash people.
That could be her experimenting with reality as well, too.
Right, yeah.
So, like, are they really there or are they not? So,
yeah. It could just be like giant sort of illusions or something.
So, I felt that was really cool. And I thought the computer bioforms were really interesting looking. I love the design of those things. So, just the way that their fingertips kind of drip into the consoles and stuff. So I thought that was really kind of interesting to look at. And of course you've got the references to time, like the Vindicator is the hands of a clock and stuff. She's got the seal of Rassilon hanging up, which doesn't quite match, but I don't know. I guess I'm kind of puzzled why she would have the seal of Rassilon. Was she like a big fan of his, or?
Well, I mean, she's there to bring back Gallifrey, so the seal of Rassilon
okay.
is kind of used as representative of like the ruling class of Gallifrey in some stories. So.
And I mean,
Okay.
yeah, which I guess fits in the sense that, I mean, as I pointed out either last time or on a previous thing, like the Rani does effectively translate to the Queen. So
I will say it's funny. It's funny that you mentioning she clearly wasn't that much of a fan of Rassilon, considering she's referring to Omega as the most powerful of the time. Or I think it was her lackey referring to him as the most powerful of the Time Lords. So clearly she didn't think Rassilon was all he was cracked up to be. If she's so convinced Omega was that much more powerful, but.
The President Eternal or whatever is what she called Rassilon. The other thing is that actually went over my head, the idea that she wants to bring Gallifrey back. I didn't put two and two together. I thought she just wanted to bring Omega back. It didn't occur to me that she was... I also didn't get a chance...
Yeah, it was in the Next Time trailer, which was only on YouTube, which was only on YouTube for a change.
Okay, I
thought she said something in the episode proper as well.
She just talked about bringing back Omega. It's only in the Next Time trailer that comes up. But yeah, like
she talks about the fact that like she wants to instead of just bringing death, she wants to cause life and whatever.
Yeah.
And so she kind of plants the idea of like restoring the Time Lords, but maybe she doesn't flat out say it.
Yeah, I guess. Additionally, thinking about it, if she was going to be trying to bring back like someone from like that far back in Time Lord society, it does make sense that she would bring back the guy who basically invented the concept of time travel for them and like made the TARDISes work. She would admire the guy who was basically the lead scientist. And
although
that
it's
like
funny because
Rassilon seems to have basically just taken credit for everyone else's work.
Yeah, he was basically
going back to the types of science, right? You have Omega did the time travel experiments. Tecteun experimented on the proto-doctor, so if anyone was in the Rani's vein, it was probably Tecteun. And in some versions of continuity, Rassilon was the one who kind of gave the rest of the Time Lords like regeneration ability and such. I think in the current continuity, they would probably say that was Tecteun.
Yeah, because I feel
like this is.
I feel like some Big Finish stuff seems to try and paint it to where, like, Rassilon's basically like mostly talk, in that it seems that he basically just perfected stuff, potentially more so perfected stuff that other people came up with. Especially if you take into like Tecteun now into account and how Omega was actively screwed over basically and abandoned, that like you can basically take it as Rassilon just being like, I'll take that, thank you.
And I forget the name of the story. It's the main range story that's before Zagreus, where they actually no, maybe it is maybe it is Zagreus. Now that I think about it, but they have like the scene where where Colin Baker plays the vampire lord. And the implication of that sequence is basically that, like, Rassilon at the very least was involved in, well, one, like, I mean, non-scientific stuff like culling other life forms, but also, I think in that, or maybe I'm mixing up multiple stories, it's possible, but at least Rassilon, it seems to be implied, is the one who capped regenerations at 13.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So
I
he did
definitely think
something
that
at least.
the show as well might have brought that up. I forget, but I think it said that was him that capped it,
He was like,
and
Rassilon had unlimited regenerations, and then when he extended it to others, he capped it at 13.
Mm-hmm.
possibly.
I wonder if this is kind of bringing up Omega and Rassilon and even possibly Susan. I wonder if this is their way of undoing, was it the Nameless Child?
Timeless Child.
Some of
I
the
would say no, because
Timeless
Russell
Child.
explicitly said
Yeah,
he was not doing that. So I think.
yeah. He likes that idea, so it's more likely that
Mhm.
he might just be doing this to actually shockingly, given that he was the guy who originally wiped them all out in the first place, that it might be him trying to be like, you know what, screw it, let's bring Gallifrey back. But also, I guess you could say this is him, if it succeeds, then this is him trying to do that in a way that isn't just hand waving, that it just everything became fine off screen.
Mhm. Plus, we've had 20 years of stories with more or less no Gallifrey, so
Yeah.
bringing it back as a proper status quo, is fair.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. I
Just
actually like Gallifrey just because
yeah.
there's still so little we know of it. There's still a
Mm.
lot of mystery. It's a mystery box, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. What I liked about this story is I think I like the way that they kind of experimented and tested with the reality. Because it would
Mm.
have been like it would have taken up the whole episode if they were just like basically doing things the way that Ruby is doing them, right? If that was
Mm.
like the way that everybody tested things, it would have taken the whole episode to really scratch the surface.
Yeah.
But with the cup thing was interesting. I do think there were some mistakes made, and that's because modern television assumes, sometimes rightfully because people are raised on modern television, that
Mm.
people are too stupid to kind of put two and two together. So they need to say 2 and 2 equals 4. And then in the following scene, 2 and 2 equals 4. And then in another scene, 2 and 2 equals 4. So there is that problem. But
Mm.
I think in general, the whole cup symbolism was a really interesting way to go about it, where every time somebody doubted the reality, or like they exposed a flaw in this reality, a cup broke, or like something
Mm.
flickered through a table.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole scene with the Doctor and Belinda kind of putting a cap in that. I thought that was a really clever way to condense the plot without like rushing through it, because they still had to go through a process of testing it. Okay, they did kind of rush through it, and I hope that scene makes more sense next week. I
Mm.
don't know if we probably will talk about that scene at some point. But that in general, I thought it was a pretty clever way to go about it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right, what do we dislike about the episode, Alex?
I'm gearing up to do a full pre-review rant of this next week, depending on how next week goes. But the way this episode works, as per usual, this entire season outside of maybe episode 1, Belinda could be anyone.
um.
This Belinda is barely in this. Ruby takes away screen time from her
Mm-hmm.
as per usual, like she did by having a Dr. Light episode focused around Ruby instead of around friggin' Belinda. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like yeah, I could go on for a while about that, but I'm saving that
By
for
the way,
next week.
are you on the
So
page of
yeah,
bad
just
things?
yeah, it's yeah, just come on, Russell. Actually do a POC companion correctly for a change. You've never done it right, in my mind. Martha, Mickey, now Belinda. 3 for 3 on fucking it up, as far as I'm concerned.
So it's interesting you mentioned like time taken away from her. And if you contrast this, it's really clear that like Ruby is a companion and
Yeah.
Belinda was just kind of along for the ride. Because Ruby is going along solving the problems and Belinda
Yeah.
is like police.
Yeah.
Coming
Yeah, like effectively, Ruby is getting the Martha from what the fuck's the episode called? It's like the one before the last of the Time Lords. In the middle bit of the Utopia trilogy.
The Sound of Drums.
Sound of Drums, that's it. Well, like oh no, maybe I am thinking of the Last of the Time Lords, whatever. Yeah, like Martha's going around actually doing stuff in that story. From what I can recall. Whereas in this, Belinda is just stuck in Wish World mode for the entire thing. Whereas Ruby gets to actually do stuff. So yeah, it's just...
By the way, you're still showing the What We Like slide.
Ah. But yeah, it's... Yeah. I'll probably have a good full 5 minutes on it next week if shit doesn't change. So we'll see.
And yeah, well, as of the trailer, she still doesn't know who she is yet. Which,
Yeah.
again, not a great credit to her. It goes from being to, she just wanted to get back to her not even really being qualifying as a companion at that point. So hopefully she does get a redeeming moment.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron, what did you dislike about this story?
I mean, I think what's really, I have a couple of things, but I think what really kind of aggravates me more, especially now that Alex pointed it out, is freaking Ruby. Just having her in here, she's basically, for one thing, she reminds me a lot of Rose from series 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she turns up to kind of say, series 4 with Donna, where she turn left, I believe, is where she shows up at the end or something to save Donna.
Yeah.
Or something, and the only thing is that Ruby isn't holding a giant gun in this.
Right.
Also, she hasn't been years away from the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, the image I tried to put is super not big enough for that.
Not to mention, like, Rose comes back in the in the series 4 finale as well, and like just somehow manages to get back to Earth, and like, mind you, she doesn't take full focus away from Donna, but the optics is still dodgy because that was 2 white companions and they managed that fine enough, but here we have a white companion stealing time away from a woman of color.
I mean, Belinda wasn't written as a companion of color, so I
just mean like
I'm
pure optics.
To criticize it on that. I think she's purely okay.
And again, like
maybe a poorly written character, but it's not like she was written in a racist way.
I like to see it as a for example, you have Rose versus Donna, and Donna is a strong enough character that she can overwhelm Rose's appearance. Like, Rose is there to save the day, but Donna is still very much Donna.
Yeah.
And there's no one that's going to be able to kind of upstage her that easily. Whereas Belinda doesn't really have a characterization. She doesn't really have a character, so it's that much more easy for Ruby to step in and just steal the spotlight.
So it's more that the optics are weird to have such a weakly written POC companion, and like, here's the white woman who we actually did flesh out in her 1 season.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
then when Ruby is here, she doesn't do anything. Belinda could easily have, you know, done something, especially after she runs off into the wilderness screaming her head off
Yeah, like
about stuff. And then just moments later she's calling the police on the doctor.
yeah.
Like it feels like it feels like this episode was originally written for Belinda to be in Ruby's role, and for some reason they decided to just put Ruby in there.
I mean
It definitely feels like something was cut. Like I don't
Mm.
think she was meant to go through that whole plot because it references so many things from Ruby's history that I think
Mhm.
it was written specifically for Ruby. But it
Mm.
definitely feels like there was supposed to be more significance to that scene you just mentioned. I think the whole point was supposed to be like she's trying to believe in this reality. She's trying not to doubt. She's trying not to have, the you know, whatever Fahrenheit 451 1984 police called on her. Well,
Yeah.
I don't think they don't really give them a name or anything.
Yeah.
But she's trying not, she's trying to be like, for the sake of this daughter, I'm going to pretend everything is all right, and here are these
Mm.
things preventing me from pretending everything is all right.
Mm.
But it needed some follow up. It needed more than just she screams and then Mrs. Flood comes and gets her.
Yeah.
There needed to be some emotional journey in between.
Yeah, it basically feels like this season was probably meant to was probably initially written with Ruby still being around in mind, and then Millie Gibson opted to leave. So they were like, "Whoops! Now we've got to come up with another
But
companion."
she's in about I mean,
Well, you know what I mean, like
she's in at
availability.
least
They probably,
three,
yeah,
at least, yeah,
yeah,
about half the season, give or
yeah.
take.
Mhm.
So it feels like they were like, well, we can't have the Doctor traveling alone in all these other instances, so I guess we've got to make up a companion to fill the spots where she's not there.
Mhm.
A charitable reading is that they tried to do a companion that's a little different than the normal, in
Mhm.
terms of like, not like super. I mean, but even that kind of falls flat because her criticisms of the Doctor don't like she doesn't hold strongly to them. Like at last episode, there was the like, oh you scared me. I was just criticizing it last week for the like, oh all she says is you scared me for a moment, and then that's the whole
Mhm.
conversation, and
Yeah.
it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, it won't be by the looks
So
of it.
they seemed to have to want to do the thing of like she's an older companion, she's no nonsense, she's not here for
Mm.
fantastic adventures, she
Yeah.
wants to get back home, and
It
it's
yeah.
not a super interesting character type. Like
Mm.
we've criticized them as like the B companion in the past when people have that sort of attitude because it doesn't make the character likable for fans of the show, and it doesn't really, most of the time it doesn't cause the stories to be more interesting. Sometimes it does, especially since it causes conflict, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
Mhm.
there was conflict between Belinda and the Doctor,
Mm.
but you need a little more than that for it to really be interesting.
I
Yeah.
wish she was more like I wish Belinda was more like Liz matched with Nissa, where she was a true a scientific companion. She's working on stuff and like yeah, she wants to get home, but she instead of enduring or becoming enamored with the Doctor through a stupid like 50s song and dance versus a cartoon type creature that they're fighting. It would be better if she kind of warmed up to the Doctor through the fact that he, was she saw him like helping people like both medically and scientifically, and she's like, okay, I see what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Like if they approached it through more professional, like professional companions, like I'm the nurse to his doctor, I'm the assistant to
Mm.
his professor, basically.
Mm.
He's looking at things through a scientific lens, and then that would also match up with the Ronnie, like, oh, the Ronnie is turning is using science for evil, basically.
Mm. And I guess even then, like, the last time we had a "for the love of God, get me home" companion, that was Tegan, and Tegan had 2 other companions to bounce off of, whereas
Mhm.
we just have Belinda.
Yeah.
Which is funny because we're just coming off of in the last era we had the big TARDIS crew with the TARDIS with the not knowing what to do with all of them.
Yeah.
Mhm. You make you make at least one the scientist, one the brat, and the other one the adult in the room. Or possibly make the scientist the adult in the room and then have them have to babysit a brat. That's always causing
Doctor
trouble.
can be the brat.
Well, there you got Tegan and you got Turlo right there.
All right. So for the sake of time, we'll move on. Funny, I put 2 images here because I was sure that somebody was going to mention one of them, and I was going to take the other, and neither have come up.
I mean, Conrad is another one that I was going to mention, but I felt like Ruby was a lot more egregious.
So I'm just going to say it did not make sense for Conrad to be in the role he is in this story. It feels like he was put there specifically because, the Rani doesn't have a particular worldview of humanity that she's going to enforce. And actually, maybe an argument could be made, okay, we needed a human in this role because they have an idea of what humanity should be. But it seems like, I think the only reason Conrad is here is because they're saying, oh yeah, we're in this, right-wing paradise. I was about to say MAGA, but this is Britain. Brexit mentality of the men can't be beautiful and women should just stay home and make babies world. And I think that's the only reason Conrad's there. But realistically, like, if I'm the Rani, I'm not putting a human in charge of this job where they need to concentrate and think about every facet of the world at once. Like, even the Avengers was like, yeah, we need a fucking super genius to do this. Only Bruce Banner can handle, like, something this complex for the snap of a fucking finger. Here's Conrad doing this for, I have no idea how long, because time is twisted and bendable. But at the very least, days at a time. Like, unless she really wanted maybe she wanted the flaws to be there so that the doctor would catch them and
that is the point.
But
like, she kind of spells that out. That is the entire point.
Even to this extent, a human shouldn't be capable of this. Like, if I'm the Ronnie and there's 2 of me, like, Mrs. Flood should be in that position.
Yeah.
For one thing, I guess, Conrad always had multiple not multiple personalities, but he was a very good actor. But he,
multiple personas, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, some of it's... Oh, yeah, and the whole, like, the dream of making the world better, like, maybe, I don't know if that's just some crap that she spins him to convince him to be there, but I'm like, that's not him. So that really doesn't, like, why pick him over any other random human?
Yeah,
I kind of wish it had been the Ronnie. I wish Conrad hadn't been there and that the Ronnie just turned everything into how she felt Gallifrey should look like. And then every time someone doubted the Gallifrey thing. Yeah.
To me, it felt like the Ronnie... I mean, like, technically this is basically retroactively saying, by virtue of having lived as Mrs. Flood for however long, that technically she has been on Earth. But, like... And this would be, like, the first time she's ever been on Earth. God knows how long she's lived there for, because I guess the implication is maybe long enough for the Mrs. Flood incarnation to get that old from however young she might have started.
It's a good question, because she does have... well, we don't see a TARDIS, but she obviously she travels
Mm.
from the far future back to the present, so she clearly
Yeah.
has a TARDIS somewhere.
Yeah, and like, but I feel like it's a matter of no, Mrs. Flood, we're not going to make you do this. I need you for other shit. He's expendable.
Mhm.
He can do it. Like, if he dies, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, you know,
Like, it kind of feels like the only reason for the Ronnie to pick him is because hey, he hurt the Doctor's friend, so I'm going to be petty and free him from prison.
I mean,
'Cause-
again, it's to me, it comes off as she needed a world that the Doctor would ultimately feel so much doubt in that it undoes reality. So getting a right-wing grifter's idea of an ideal world would be what would the Doctor would push back against. Whereas she'd be like, I don't particularly care enough about humanity to give that any thought. So
right. It would just be fucking rats in a labyrinth.
So like I assume that, and it probably, like, I'm assuming Russell's probably made some justification for it and Unleashed, but I've didn't get to see enough of it to remember if he brought that up. But yeah, it is the idea of just playing into, I mean, to the point that like the book they show that he's reading from is basically a parody of the first Harry Potter book in terms of the cover. So it's definitely very targeted what he's doing.
Right. All right. Favorite scenes, Alex?
I guess in a way this is more favorite line than like the scene overall. But just because I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds like something that Ronnie would say. And the reveal of like the doubts are the point where she's like, yes, if you doubt things and you're questioning things, da, da, da. And it's like, yeah, of course, like someone who is into the kind of stuff she's into would be like, yes, you should be questioning everything. That is the point. Like it's just like, okay, that's what makes this more of a Rani plot than the Master, because the Master would be like, no, you think how I want you to think. God damn it.
That's true. His ego would be like, what do you mean you're breaking out of my hypnosis?
Yeah.
This is not tolerable.
Yeah.
It's kind of I don't know if there's a good image for that on the internet, but I will pick the closest one, because it involves people who are searching for doubts.
Yeah, they that also plays into the alt-right angle that the whole season's had lately too, of really kind of taking them to task on everything, so which is good. So
Yeah, Conrad is kind of cute. All right, Aaron, what's your favorite scene?
Okay, let's see here. I've got like a couple of them. I'm going to go with the whole tables don't do that. I actually had to look up his name again, but like it's Return of Rogue basically. So, I thought that was kind of clever, the whole
the cameo, not like the one at the table, but his actual speech monologue.
Yeah, where he's at the he's on the TV and he's warning the Doctor tables don't do that. So I thought that was really cool. It kind of harkens back to Blink with the videotape warning that the Doctor creates as well, but not like a direct reference to that. It also is. I also like the idea of the cups falling through the table whenever someone doubts. So, yeah, and I thought it was just kind of a well, and also the fact that what he says that thanks very much for putting me in this hellscape or something, or or I'm in this hellscape. Thank you very much, by the way. So,
which I will say, I have
very
seen.
Sorry.
I
Go ahead.
have seen some people be like, well, wait a minute, how would he be able to break through that? I guarantee you that was the Rani fiddling with the Doctor's memory and going, ooh, this might trigger something.
Oh
And
yeah, I didn't even
basically,
realize that. Wow.
yeah. So that was likely not
Okay.
actually Rogue. That was likely
Mm.
the Rani exploiting the Doctor's memory of him to get a reaction.
Okay,
Yeah, because I
so
don't think.
that
Yeah.
that take make the whole like because I'm sitting there, I was like, how the fuck does he know about what's
Yeah.
happening with tables?
Uh huh.
There are
Yeah.
no tables where he is. He's clearly standing in front of a green screen. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you talking about?
Yeah, and also I don't think he'd be able to break through reality
Yeah.
to to I don't think he has that kind of technology to be able to do it. Now, if
Mm,
it were the Doctor trying to reach out to someone, yeah.
yeah.
Did he have any sort of telepathic or psychic abilities in Rogue?
I don't
Don't think
think
so. I
so.
mean, he's basically Captain Jack that we can actually reuse.
Right. It's like I
Mm-hmm.
feel like in some
So,
stories it's just like, like characters like that are just like, yeah, of course they had psychic training. Uh
mm.
so it's like you'd be like, "Oh yeah, he has just enough psychic training to reach out to the doctor," but that wouldn't explain
Mm.
him knowing about the table thing. So
Yeah.
him just being like a simulation, I can kind of buy a lot better.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Especially if she's trying to trigger the Doctor. So.
right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And yeah, this scene has been heavily criticized on the Twitter.
Mm.
So okay, so actually talking that through, I can see it a lot better now. Okay, crap. So now we're up to me, and I have been trying to figure out a scene that I pick as a favorite. Um, you know what? It's in some ways it like we were talking earlier. I'm not sure if you were here yet, Aaron. We were talking a little bit, um, and I think I literally put an image of this scene under least favorite scenes because I thought the scene. Oh yeah, because of the criticisms we had for it. But I think I'm gonna put it here because it's just kind of like a fun in a twisted, fucked up way sense sort of scene, and that is the Ronnie just coming in and being like, "Yeah, fuck you and your choice of a baby name, and also I'm gonna, kill you and turn your kids into ducks, just to experiment with this new power."
Mm.
It's, I honestly don't think that scene should be there, but it's so fun to watch. I
Mm.
can understand why they didn't want to cut it, even though I don't think it should be there.
Yeah, I think the only real issue I had with it the first time through was just like there's no real context in the immediate scene of wait, how can she suddenly do all this magic stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And then like cuz
Yeah,
it's
but
like it's it's
un
it's more implied than her
yeah,
outright saying like, "Ah yes, suddenly because of your baby because I'm just holding your
right.
baby, I can just do this now."
Uh, I like how on the first watch I wouldn't have known this, but once I watched, you see the baby giggle,
Mm.
knowing what's going on, and then on a rewatch, every time she does something, she kisses the baby and then blows at the person
Mm-hmm.
she wants to affect.
Yeah.
So it's
Mm.
very clear that she's, it's not like that she's using the baby's or the what was it, reality god or the wish god's power
Mm.
every time she's doing this, rather than in some way like controlling it on her own. But of
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
course you don't have that context to really understand it the first time you watch it, other
Mm.
than knowing that the baby is somehow important.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think this scene would be perfect. Like it would probably be relatively perfect if one, you pick what you move it after the opening because you don't need two cold opens, and two, if you put And I it's well acted, but it doesn't make sense that it's Archie Punjabi instead of Anita Dobson. It should be Mrs. Flood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because for her to do this whole Vindicator plan would have to mean she already has the baby. Because how would she know she needed the Vindicators and everything if she didn't have the baby?
Well, it takes place in the 1800s. I know, like, the Ronnie can time travel and everything, but it kind of makes sense that Mrs. Flood is probably sitting there spending a lot of time kind of hatching the scheme and stuff. So
But why did she hatch the scheme?
that's true. I
Yeah,
don't
because
know.
I guess she wouldn't
The
know
whole
she
scheme
needed
was
the
to
Vindicator yet. Yeah.
the whole scheme was to connect to like how to use the baby's power, but she didn't have the baby yet.
Yeah. Which I guess you could maybe argue that's why she's not doing any Vindicator crap in season 1, because she didn't figure it out until like in between, maybe.
Although this isn't explicitly said, but this is a possibility. She says, "Am I too late?" I wonder if she crossed her own timeline there, and she's coming back before Mrs. Flood could do it, and I don't understand
Maybe.
why she's one upping
Right.
herself.
Yeah.
But that is a possibility. Like, she's just so petty. She's like, I can't allow my former self to succeed in this. I have to be the one. I can't be the second author on this paper. I must be the first author. All right. Least favorite scenes, Alex.
Oh, I feel like I had one. Let's see. Bugger. What was I gonna go with?
By the way, do you have any idea what time we actually started streaming? Because I don't have the stream clock.
I'll put it this way: we're running pretty close, I think. Let's see. Oh, bugger me! I feel like I had one, and now I'm just blanking. I guess. I guess I will just go with the Ronnie putting the music on and dancing with the Doctor, because that doesn't feel very. That feels very New Who. Is what it feels. I guess
that's another.
it feels very.
That's literally a copy of a Sasha Dewan scene.
Yeah, like put the music on, starts dancing with the Doctor, and it's like this feels a bit too like. This is very New Who. This is, something. I mean, even the Master, in the Utopia trilogy, is like dancing around to pop music with like old man Tennant in a wheelchair. Like,
there we go.
So
found the photo.
So yeah, it's just like,
which I didn't even notice this scene in my rewatch, probably because I was just tired. But well, I forget when exactly it happens.
Like it's when she's like near the end in the last like 15 minutes, and she's just trying to be like, "Come on, Doctor, remember," and then ends up like pulling him in pulling him into really close to, and that's where the quote about like, we danced in the ruins of Persephone
so
or whatever.
Either right after. Oh, so she turns the music on, and then is the scene of her dancing with him.
Yeah, and then yeah, that's where the whole like like, we danced in the ruins of Persephone or whatever, and people thought we were lovers. Do you think that's true? That's that scene. It's like her, like, if this was actually the Rani, or like the Rani that, even in, like, I think, like, I've only seen Time in the Rani, but if this was actually the Rani, the Doctor would be like tied to a chair or something, and she would just be like right up in his face, dead serious, just spouting. Like, it would be damn near Clockwork Orange of just like, remember, goddammit.
All right. Aaron, least favorite scene.
Hmm. I think the Doctor and Belinda waking up to being married felt a little weird. Like, I think I almost wonder if they try to take into account or try to work in them being kind of friendly for a while. Like I think that's why second episode you see her kind of drop the whole anger towards him, and she stops pointing out all the little manipulations he's doing and stuff to try to, quote unquote, help her and everything, or convince her to go on a journey with him and stuff. Because if she was still in that mood where, like, she was open to criticizing him more frequently and stuff, this would be a much more awkward scene, a much more
Yeah,
uncomfortable
I
one.
mean, the issue of consent comes up, but it is a villain plot. It
Yeah.
is a villain plot because it's like, have they
I
actually
don't think
slept
they
together, or
actually
have
do
they?
anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
mean,
don't think they
you're
actually do
making
anything, but
if you're making two people who would not kiss each other on the lips do that, so it's not
Right.
mhm.
as bad as it could be, but it's still a bit iffy.
I mean,
I would
there's
almost
definitely like
have,
it's all very like it's all very like chaste and performative.
yeah,
Like there didn't seem to be
Mhm.
any like romantic or sexual moment there.
yeah.
Mhm.
To that end, I'm surprised they're not sleeping in separate beds to go full 1950s.
1950s.
Yeah. Um,
And it's already being accused of ripping off WandaVision. We don't need to go even farther.
um, to that end, like, I was almost thinking like it would. I think I initially thought previously, wouldn't it have made more sense if, like, Belinda had been the one running around and Ruby was that? But then I immediately, as Aaron was talking, was like, no, this is Conrad's perfect world. Races don't mix in Conrad's perfect world, so that's why we can't have an
Uh-huh.
interracial couple. Like, the black and brown person have to be a couple. We're not allowed to have white people mixing. Would be where that
Mm.
logic came from.
Which makes me wonder if this episode was an idea when they, came up with the Captain Poppy character in the first place.
I mean, probably. Like, all the references to Poppy this season, and she came up in Story in the Engine. I have to believe that this has been long term planning.
I hope Poppy doesn't wind up being Susan, and that, like, just Poppy is a reference to Susan or
So
something, because I can see it
I've seen
happening.
some wild theories about Poppy. I've seen people saying, "Oh, Poppy is going to be the proto Doctor, right? The timeless child."
Oh yeah,
I've
that would
seen
be
I've seen
interesting.
people pulling up quotes of like the Doctor saying like, he hasn't had children yet, and be like, "Oh, this is going to be Susan's mother." And,
Well, yeah, like,
and that was actually in the RTD2 era, so like
yeah.
that's more plausible than I wish it
Yeah,
was.
the episode does end with him being like, I do have a daughter, she is real.
Mhm. I
So,
mean, it's Poppy. I mean, we know it's true, right? Poppy is definitely real, and Conrad did not make him. and it's weird for her to be on Earth, and I think that's why it's the cliffhanger, is that like something in addition to their manipulation is happening because Poppy has no reason to be on modern day Earth. You know, and the fact that she physically is here means that there's something more than just, you know, that going on. At the same time, Belinda has, you know, clearly did not give birth to her. Although that doesn't necessarily mean she's not the Doctor's in some way that we don't understand yet. They did refer to bi-generation as giving birth, so unless they're going to say that the Doctor bi-generated into Poppy, that would be a weird way to announce the 16th Doctor. 16th Doctor is a toddler.
Yeah, that's what Tennant regenerates into. Is this Doctor capable of regenerating after bi-generation? Do we know yet?
I don't. I
Did they
think the
mention that?
implication. I think the implication
Yeah.
is not, because they're like.
Hmm.
I think the idea is like, Shooty is the main continuation of it, and
Oh, you're saying if Tennant? So
yeah.
Tennant regenerates into Shooty. So, which I don't like. They have, I think, very intentionally not tried to explain that because there's no explanation that's going to make sense.
Yeah.
Maybe the idea is that like just Tennant one day like vanishes. You know, he just crackles up and burns away, and then all of his memories get transplanted into Shooty.
The semi-joking thing that I came up with yesterday was maybe it'll be the Watcher situation where like the echo of 5 kind of merged with 4 and then regenerated into 5. So like it could be a matter of like the two will
that explains the Watcher better than anything they did in the 70s attempting to.
Like it would, in this case, it would be a matter of the previous incarnation merges with the current and then they regenerate into the next one. Kind of a thing.
All right. So for my scene, and I'm realizing now that there is an explanation for this that I hadn't thought of, but the scene of Conrad with Mrs. Flood, because it's just, I mean, part of it is I had all the criticisms before of Conrad's role in the story, but even here, like, he just seems so out of character. He was just like, oh, the thinking is so hard, and it doesn't feel like Conrad. And like part of it is like, you know, he's, as much as he's a hateable character, he's smart enough to know what the difference between thinking and concentrating. So when I say I think I can explain it, I think Mrs. Flood might be like wishing for Conrad to be more like malleable, and that this is the result of that. Of like, Conrad is affecting the world, but Mrs. Flood is affecting Conrad.
Yeah, it's either that or just like, he's been so isolated that he has kind of regressed. Because especially, he had an abusive mother, so falling back into old habits, he's that kid with, in this case, 2, I guess, abusive moms. That are like bossing him around and making him do stuff. And so, because it felt like he was, in some of it, it felt like he was very childlike. So it feels like he's regressed, maybe.
If you're like, I do not think that there are many children of abuse whose instinct is to lean in for an unsolicited hug without any verbal, sort of explicit discussion of it.
Yeah, I mean, his
which is another thing that feels out of character. Like, he wasn't doing it in like the, you know, like Drake give me a hug kind of way, but more in the like mommy comfort me way, which just
which again
feels
like
weird.
Yeah, like it could be either just manipulation that they did off screen, or just being so isolated has made him change in some way, because he reverts back to normal when he gets to see the doctor again. So it's
True.
so it's probably a matter of like, oh god, I'm stuck in this room all day with no one to talk to. Oh, thank God you've come to talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder how long he's been in that room talking to the TV with no water. Just, I mean, I guess you don't need water when you're like controlling a wish god,
Yeah.
but yeah, I wish my throat would never get tired. God, there are time, when I'm, well, I guess I'm I'm like, it doesn't affect me when I'm podcasting, but then again, I usually have a drink with me when I'm podcasting. But when I'm tutoring without water, or when I'm teaching and I can't stop talking, I definitely wish I would have a wish granting being doing something with my throat. Don't take that weirdly out of context, YouTube people. All right, final thoughts.
Yeah, like, I'm interested to see where this goes. I mean, I did call like, I feel like there are some people who called it being the thing being Omega when, like, the first time the Rani brings up, like, the one who was lost, but I didn't catch it until like right before she mentioned it, and then I was like, oh, okay. Like, my one guess, and it was correct. Yeah, like, it's interesting. We'll see where the hell this goes. I mean, we had the next time trailer that brings up what her like end goal is. But yeah, as for this specific episode, it is definitely one of, like, all the performances were very strong. I did think the uh unified national insurance team gag was funny. Or just, it's a bit weird that the unit building is still the same. But like, otherwise unchanged, but it's an insurance agency now instead of so they've just got a helipad for no reason. But yeah, which is probably just a matter of having to reuse sets, but is still very funny. But yeah, I just really hope that this isn't like last year where, like, I'm kind of like, I'm mixed on this as it stands, but I'm hoping this is one where it's like, I'm mixed on part 1 and then part 2 happens and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I can go with this, instead of the usual New Who scenario where, for the most part, part 1's are usually the better half, and then part 2 it just all kind of goes to shit. So fingers crossed we don't have that issue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Aaron, final thoughts.
I agree. I enjoy the acting was really good. The design, like I said, I really enjoyed the design of the creatures that are involved. Um yeah, there was a lot of stuff. I liked seeing some of the old characters, even though Ruby really kind of stole the sunshine from Belinda. I guess there's like a bit of continuity with her and the previous season, with her showing up, but still, this had the writing. I think I had a real issue with, because it kind of weakened the Rani as a character, in my opinion. Because she's, I don't know, just too male centric. It feels like she should have more take charge. Ironically, like, even though she's bossing around like Mrs. Flood and everything like that, it still feels like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like she's as scientifically minded as she should be, even though they kind of sneak some stuff in there, like with the Vindicator plot and everything. There just seems like something off. Like she's not as strong as she should be. Like no, she's not as strong. She's not as no nonsense type stuff. And like with her dancing around with the doctor, that's just more of a. I think people. I think we mentioned it before that that's something more of what the freaking master did and everything.
Hmm.
Like maybe it's just referencing that scene, but still, maybe she knows that that the doctor danced with the master at one point. But there's times when she's not quite Missy, but almost,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of threw me off a little bit. I wish that she was like a little bit more no nonsense, like Kate O'Mara's character. But like, I get that this is a different regeneration as well. So, um, yeah, I think that was just like the way Belinda's kind of been treated and the way that the Ronnie was kind of feels like she's been depowered in favor of maybe pursuing Omega as the main villain. And, once again, I think she's going to get pushed to the background if they do bring Omega back. So that will probably that's my prediction for next week is basically the Ronnie will be kind of a non thing. I hope she has, maintains like power over the plot and stuff like that. But like if
Hmm.
they're introducing someone like him, it's going to be really easy to kind of overwhelm her with how
Hmm.
important Omega is to the universe. So I kind of hope I know he's going to probably show up. I haven't seen the trailer for next week or anything like that, but I
Hmm.
hope that it's a little bit more controlled. I don't know how you can do that though. Like it's Omega. He should
Hmm.
really like Ronnie should be the main villain for this season, and then assuming there's a third season or something, Omega should be the main villain for that season. If they want to continue with
Hmm.
the whole Disney thing, which I don't think they are. Do we know if or not?
It's still
Do
up
we
in
know?
the air because they're waiting for the
Mm-hmm.
until after this season ends to make a decision one way or the other.
Okay, yeah, it feels like Omega should be reserved for season 3. That'd be a kind of a nice build up, kind of mirror the Master's return in season 3 of or series 3 of the initial run for RTD. So
Hmm.
yeah, but that's kind of a little bit of my predictions, and I hope that the Ronnie stays a strong character, but I think she's going to get overshadowed by Omega real quick.
Okay. So yeah, so this episode, actually, so for my final thoughts, I'm going to talk about one thing that we actually have managed not to talk about, oddly enough,
Hmm.
which is the whole, the yeah, the Shirley Ruby plotline. We've talked about specifically Ruby, but I just want to bring up as our final thought that I mentioned last week. Shirley has not been allowed to just have an episode where she just exists as a disabled person
Yeah.
without like facing discrimination of some sort about it.
Hmm.
And this episode continues that. That's kind of connected to I just saw a tweet today where they were like past doctors, going around the universe, having fun, existing. Uh, Shudigatwa's doctor. Racism, homophobia, racism, homophobia, racism, homophobia.
Hmm.
So yeah, there seems to be a bit of a theme with that. And again, escapism versus realism, you can argue it all you want, but
Hmm.
part of you know part of educating people on prejudice is not perpetuating it yourself, and especially
Hmm.
given that this is the showrunner who decided Davros can't be disabled anymore because that comes from a stereotype, you're kind
Yeah.
of leaning into some stereotypes here.
Hmm.
We have the whole like, oh, disabled people are actually Actually, this literally is said in the episode. Disabled people are lucky because they can see the truth, and that is definitely a problematic viewpoint. And yes, they do have a partially not that, like, that line is not excusable. The plot line is addressed in the idea this is because of um, invisibility. Conrad does not think of disabled people, and therefore they slip through the cracks. That is reasonable. It, again, does not excuse the specific line of disabled. They're lucky to be disabled, but that is a beneficial thing. I do wish there was a little bit more on some of the broader social implications. For example, when Ruby says things against the New World Order, Carla calls her on it immediately. Whereas if you are already a pariah from society, nobody is going to call you on it and have a problem with you saying something weird. So I wish there was a little of that. So it's I don't know where, I guess B minus for that particular plot. Some people are upset at Ruby not being like a perfect ally. I would say most abled people that have not done any study into disability justice are gonna fuck up, are gonna make mistakes. Like, just being involved in the foster system doesn't make you like perfect.
Yeah. And even like actually having disabled friends doesn't automatically mean that you're never going to slip up.
Right. And to be fair, if you're concerned about the pragmatics of a moment, yes, at that given moment, she was more concerned about. I mean, there are other scenes, but yes, she was more concerned about being caught than about
Yeah.
than about giving accommodations.
And at least Shirley actually calls someone out on being ableist for a change.
Yeah.
Rather than just being like, oh,
All
I
right.
can handle it.
Right. Okay, so we would have our ratings here, but this is the first part of a two-parter. I do have a slide here that I'll just copy and paste for next week. If you're interested in seeing the visual representations of our season so far, they're on the rating slide.
That's pretty cool.
But we will not be doing ratings for the first part of a two-parter.
Okay.
So we move on. Well, actually, so I'll just quickly mention. Don't forget to like the video, to follow us on Twitch or subscribe on YouTube. And now predictions for next week. So Erin mentioned her prediction. I don't know if you had more than that. But going through our normal order, Alex, what are your predictions for next week?
I mean, I was saving it for now instead of like dragging final thoughts out longer, but RTD did put out a thing which I forget if we referenced or not before. I forget where he put it up. I think it might have been Instagram, where it was like there's there's a trio and power triumvirate, whatever, and that we did reference it, I think, before, like last week,
The
maybe.
trio thing, I think we only talked about. Oh no, so originally,
maybe.
so when we talked about it on the podcast, we thought it was Ronnie, Mrs. Flood, and Conrad, and then after the podcast, we saw the one saying Mrs. Flood does not count.
I think it was that Conrad didn't. I think it was
is the third one.
I think it was that Conrad didn't count.
Oh no, he was saying Mrs. Flood and the Ronnie counted as one person.
And I feel like he didn't. I feel like he said that Conrad didn't either. Which is like, I'd have to go and find it again, but
1 second, I will copy and paste it into Next week, Wish World. Enemies old and new unite as the Doctor faces the unholy Trinity. This is only 2/3 of the Trinity. The two Ronnies count as one because I say so. The third is lying in wait exactly 160 years away. So that's definitely the baby then. So stand by. This is the big one. First of a two-part finale. The Pantheon is stirring. Old friends are helpless. And the whole of reality is in danger as we hurtle toward May 24th. Pity the fate of poor Frau Zufall. I think that was Violetta. And remember, a message is calling across time and space. Tables don't do that. I'm kind of glad I forgot that particular line when watching the episode because it would have spoiled major moments.
Yeah. I guess in hindsight, because I was almost going to be like, oh, if Conrad didn't count and the Ronnies both counted as one each, then it could have maybe been a coy reference to like the reveal of Omega, of like, oh, well, that's what the actual triumvirate is, the unholy trinity is going to be, like Omega and the two Ronnies.
Yeah, Omega is going to have no interest in ruling as
part
of a trio.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, the Ronnie didn't really see herself as being part of a trio either.
Right. So yeah, like all I can. It's kind of funny because it's a villain plot where like, okay, so she's undoing reality somewhat, like to a point to where she can get Omega out and either use his body, seems to be the implication, but it's a matter of like, does that mean like it's basically just going to be a corpse that she can mess with? Or
that's possible. Or at least maybe that's what she's thinking, that there's just a dead Omega body sitting in between real or outside of reality, which that would explain why they used archival voice footage and not any new recording.
Yeah, because it's just like, I mean, of course, we both posited last week that maybe the Rani would have the tooth with the master contained in it. Like, I have no idea if that's gonna come back anymore. Unless like Omega does somehow bring Gallifrey back, or like is going to, but he's going to do it in a specific way, and the Doctor somehow interferes with that brings it back normal instead of like, I don't know, brings it back and everyone's subservient to Omega or something, which would seem like something Omega would want to do if he's on board with the idea of, okay, yeah, sure, let's bring back Gallifrey just so I can rule over it, because fuck those assholes for abandoning me.
On note of the corpse theory, I just pulled up the BBC page for Reality War, and Omega is not mentioned in the credits, which, granted, they don't have every single character in the episode, so they could be hiding him.
Right.
But there's no credit for Omega at the moment. But there is Susan Triad. So that's interesting. Unless it's archival footage.
Could be.
They have a flashback.
Because I guess she was in this episode, so.
She was?
Yeah, she was the lunch lady in Unit. The one who cleans up the Doctor's cup after it falls. I thought that was Mrs.
Flood.
No, that was Susan Triad.
Oh shit! Okay.
It's like the problem with them doing
them into one character.
Yeah, it was like the problem with doing the exact same thing twice, where it's an old lady who just happens to be showing up everywhere.
Damn, I'm racist against old ladies. I've got to fix that. That was at the end of yours?
Yeah, that's about all I've got off the top of my head.
Okay. All right, Aaron. And I know
Just
you
wa-
said some. Any more?
Yeah, just watch Omega winds up being the baby. The god of wishes, like why not, right? But if it was the baby, then they wouldn't be trying to break reality to find him. So, but or maybe she doesn't know he's been right under her nose the whole time. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how this goes. Like I said, Omega is such a big deal in the universe. I can see him easily overwhelming like everything else, all the stuff that they built up with the Ronnie, which would really suck because they spent like 2 seasons building up the Ronnie, and she doesn't get to be the big bad even.
Yeah.
So that just really kind of sucks. So
Fuck, if she brings back Omega and he tries to take over, then that would mean she's falling into the Master's trap of bringing about a big plan just to get betrayed at the end. But yeah, I think the Ronnie will have some sort of plan for if Omega tries to take over to kind of stop that from happening, because it seems she's thought this through.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm afraid sitting here thinking about what I'm going to say, realizing we had the whole thing of Doctor Come Save Me by Susan, and then the next thing we see is no Susan but only Poppy. Maybe Poppy is Susan after all. And I don't want to predict that, but I think it might be true.
Yeah.
Which would make it really weird of Susan being, I mean, we've never seen Susan regenerate, but she certainly has the lifespan of a Time Lord.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily on screen. That's all Big Finish and novels.
Right. Like, and if she was going to regenerate, I'd prefer to see it on screen, but.
Yeah, what I'd like to see is we see Carol Ann Ford regenerate into, somebody else who might appear at some point again in the future. What I hope does not at all happen is that the whole thing with Susan was just a teaser for the season that hasn't been commissioned yet. Because it's not a teaser for the Christmas special, because there is no Christmas special.
Right.
Unless, again, this whole meta narrative is I'm saying, oh yeah, there was never a Christmas special. Oh, but now there will be. Which I hope they would not, maybe they take the meta narrative that far.
Yeah.
But if they're doing that, then it's hard to predict anything. I wonder if the baby is going to actually do anything of its own accord or just reflect their own wishes. Either way, they have to do something about the fact that there is this, massively powerful wish granting baby, basically an infinity stone, sitting here on Earth. They have to do something about that.
Yeah. Which is
maybe Omega and the baby will annihilate each other, matter and antimatter, and that'll be the end of both of them.
Or like someone will just be like, "Oh, hey, there's an easy workaround. I wish this baby out of existence."
And yeah, I think that is the end of my predictions. So, with that, that brings us to the end. And we'll see you after the finale airs.